kind of feel like the first day of school all over again? How do you approach it?
It does. There's that nervousness, that excitement that you get at the beginning of every training camp. No matter how many times you've gone through it, there's always that little pit in your stomach a little bit when you're going into it with not knowing what the team's going to be like, not knowing what practice is going to be like, how's the team going to be, how am I going to be. All those first day of school type things go through your head, just like they did when you were going to fifth grade for the first time.
But with that, Joe, both Joes, does it feel any differently this year than, like you say, your last 8 years, Joe, and your last 5 or 6? Does it feel any differently?
How'd you pick 8 years by
Because,
coincidence here?
Here's why I said that. Because, you're 10-6 as a rookie. And then, 2008 didn't go so well for us.
Yeah.
So.
From 2009 on?
Yeah.
Okay. There's an excitement for me this year. I think we've made some really awesome changes this offseason, adding talent on offense and defense. I'm excited about Coach Williams' defense. I think they're going to be improved this season. So for me, it's exciting. It's seeing the new guys. We've obviously got some outstanding draft picks that people have high expectations for. So for me, there's the excitement of seeing if these guys are going to live up to the bill, and watching how everybody gels in training camp and all the fun things that go on in training camp, all the hard times that you persevere together with your brothers. And it's a fun, exciting time to be a Cleveland Brown, I think.
The same. Well, how did you get to 6 years? I'm just messing with you. But no, I'm super excited about it, especially for me, my last 2 years not being as healthy as I wanted to be. We got some great dudes on defense, like you said, Jamie Collins, Kirko re-signing, getting Myles Garrett. And then with the offense, we got some new linemen that they picked up. So I'm just excited about it, really excited about our defensive coordinator, just being able to see how he's been challenging us as a group. And then everybody just going out there ready to play, trying to make plays, trying to get better. Just super excited about just the direction that we're going in.
Joe T, when Hugh was here before, he said when he speaks to you guys tonight, part of his speech is going to be, we got to remember where we've been. Do you try to just erase 1 and 15, or is it something that you keep in mind as, I don't know, motivation or whatever else going forward?
Well, there's a lot of guys on this team that weren't here last year when we were 1 and 15, so they weren't able to go through the grind of a 1 and 15 season. But certainly I think the guys that were there, especially the young guys, can use that as motivation going forward and see what we did last year wasn't good enough. So everybody needs to raise it a notch this year going into the season. And hopefully you can forget about it a little bit because you don't want to let it drag into this season. But at the same time, you want to use it for a little bit of motivation going into this season.
When you saw Myles go down in minicamp, like what went through your head, and then how glad or relieved are you that he's back? You said he's ready to go, and just what impact do you think a guy like that can have right away?
I was super excited that he was okay. When he went down, it's just, injuries happen, but sometimes it seems like it happens to us a little more. But I was just hoping that he would be able to be fine and be able to be good to go. When I actually watched Myles a lot just to see what he's got. I mean, he didn't practice too much on OTAs, but just seeing the way that he could move, the way that he could bend, how big and strong he is, I could tell that that's something I really haven't seen too much of, and I think that he can be a really, really good force on the team. So I'm just super excited for him. I just hope that our team is able to go into this season healthy and ready to go, because I know we have a lot of players that are just ready to get after it, ready to change what happened last year. I know for me, for one. So, I'm just hungry and ready to get back out there and start playing.
Joe Haden, is there extra motivation this year from your standpoint, being that, last year you felt like you were bit by that injury bug a little bit too much, to kind of go back out there and prove to folks that you are still one of the elite defensive backs, in this league, and you can play at that level? Yeah,
I mean, I love playing football. That's one of the biggest things that I don't think everybody else understands. Is just the game means so much to me. I love playing ball. It's what I do. Being able to be out there for my teammates and just knowing that they have somebody to depend on. I'm not really too much of a rah-rah guy. I just like to do it on the field. So not being able to be the player that I wanted to be for the past 2 years definitely motivated me to go after my surgery and attack my rehab and just get after it as much as I possibly could. And knowing that I do have a lot to prove in myself, a lot of my teammates, they believe in me. They've been here with me for a while. They know what I can do. But just being able to, it's a what have you done for me lately business, and I'm trying to do the best that I can. So just from my rehab to my off-season work to the way I went about it, I just can't wait to get back on the field.
Can both of you guys separately address the study that came out yesterday about the 110 players that had the CTE? Joe, you've had experience with concussions, and Joe T, you've had some experience lately with what you think might be memory loss. Can you individually address what impact that study had on you when you saw that yesterday?
You go ahead, kill it, Joe T.
Okay, I'll go first.
Go ahead, kill it.
It's obviously a very interesting topic because it's very deep and very intertwined with what we do in the NFL on a daily basis. So there's a lot of parts to all these stories, and I try to follow it as much as I can. I think the study that came out yesterday is interesting because obviously they studied all these former players, and only one of them didn't have signs of CTE. And coincidentally enough, that one player that didn't have CTE was Doug Deacon, which is probably a surprise to a lot of his colleagues. They thought he was probably the most affected by it. But I think I can't wait to see the study on the average population to see how much CTE is in the average population, because to have a study where almost 100% of the people have what you're looking for is pretty amazing, and I think it doesn't really tell you much yet. So this is just kind of the tip of the iceberg of what we're learning about brain injury and how it relates to football and things like that. So it's definitely something I've been following and paying attention to, and I think we have just only started to uncover the relationships between head trauma and memory loss and dementia and all those things that go with it, and how that relates to the sports that we played growing up and sort of our lifestyles. So it's definitely something that as NFL players, it's good to keep our thumbs on it a little bit. But I don't think it's anything that can scare you right now. But certainly monitoring is what you want to do right now, and just follow along as they kind of continue the research and continue the studies.
Do you actually really feel like you have memory loss right now?
Well, it's interesting because, when you talk about memory loss and things like that, it's can be something as simple as, I forgot my keys, I don't know where I put it, or I went to the grocery store and I don't remember why I came here. And when you talk to doctors, they say, well, some of that just can be because you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life. As you become an older person, you need to take on more tasks, and you've got more kids and more things going on. Your brain starts to fill up with all these different things that you're thinking about, and maybe you're not focusing on the little tasks that when you were younger, it was easy to remember because that's all you had going on. And so I think that's where sometimes you can convince yourself of something that maybe is not there. But at the same time, because of the sport that we play, it is important to kind of pay attention to the little details and just kind of monitor yourself and do all the things that you possibly can from a science standpoint to try to monitor and treat any symptoms you have, or just to try to, like I said, just try to monitor where you are. And as the studies come out and as the science gets better, maybe we'll have a better idea of how to handle the symptoms or the lack of symptoms, and there'll be better studies and better tests for, hey, you're an NFL player, and yes, you have an effect from the play that you've had in the NFL, and this is what we're going to do to try to cope with it. Or, that's just a normal part of getting older and having more things going on in your life, and or, hey, that's just genetics. So it's obviously multifaceted, and there's no really one answer at this point, I think.
So in your case, you don't have a sense of what the cause is. Is that what you're saying?
That was a long answer. I know it probably was confusing. Basically, what I'm trying to say is,
Just getting older and having a bunch of kids and everything going.
yeah, basically, in my personal situation is I'm just going to monitor where I am now and where I am in 5 years and 10 years, and just pay attention to those things like I think all NFL players should, and just see, based on the best medical studies and advice at that time, what they say, basically. And I talked to my parents, and my mom's like, you know what, I forget stuff all the time. And I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty normal. You didn't play in the NFL, obviously. And so she just says, well, that's just genetics, and that's just part of getting older, and that's part of having a lot of things going on in your life. And so just because you forgot your keys one day doesn't mean that's the canary in the coal mine. But at the same time, you have to remember that you did play in the NFL, and it is a real possibility. So I guess my summary for you, because I probably confused you again, was I'm just monitoring it, and I'm not worried about it right now. I'm not sure if occasional memory loss is because I'm getting a little older and I've got more things going on in my life, or it is because of football. But basically all you can do right now is just monitor.
I'd like you to even address this, given what you went through with your concussion that one year. What 110 out of 111 players had brain damage that probably is not reversible. I mean, what would it take to make you pause, and does that make you pause about the sport at all?
Honestly, I feel like the one big thing that we're understanding now and that the NFL is giving you is information. I feel like a lot of people just weren't aware of what was going on. I think with the more research and the more testing that they do, and the more aware that the players are, myself, Joe, with understanding what's going on, making sure that we're getting checked on, getting your baselines, understanding where you're at. I think a lot of it is knowledge. At the end of the day, this is a game that we love, that we choose to play. So just definitely, I think the biggest thing that they've been doing is just letting us know what's going on, just keeping us informed. I love the game, just as long as I'm aware of it, I feel like there's not too much that will stop me from playing ball.
Have you both seen improvements in that?
Oh, yeah.
Knowledge and treatment during your career?
I would say 1,000%. At first I didn't really hear anything ever about concussions. In the past 3 years, I've had the most information, the most people talking to me, the most getting understanding baselines and stuff like that than I've ever had playing football in my career. So I feel like just being aware and not feeling like you're getting blindsided by this stuff can help out a lot of people.
Is this something that you guys talk about in the locker room a lot?
Not really. I mean, if somebody gets a concussion, and I've been lucky I haven't had a concussion, but I'm sure maybe guys would talk about it a little bit, but it's not uncommon. I mean, it happens every year. And I think it's something that you need to be aware of, but you don't want to panic, because I know plenty of old former NFL players that are doing fantastic. And, maybe when they study their brain, they're going to have CTE. And it's just a matter of sometimes the CTE in your brain affects what happens in your life and how your mood is and your attitude, and you have those issues, and then sometimes it does or it doesn't. So I think there's so many more studies that need to be done, and so much more research that needs to be done before we have sort of a clear idea of what this even means, because until they study the general population and find out what the likelihood of CTE in a soccer mom is versus an NFL brain, we really have no baseline to rate this study off of.
We got time for a couple more.
Since you had those little feelings like, hey, maybe I forgot where my keys are, since that has started to occur for you, did you go seek either through the team or independently some medical evaluation just to make sure everything's okay?
Well, I'm happy to keep my medical records very private and confidential, but I will say that for me personally, I do monitor those situations very closely, and the Browns have unbelievable medical resources, and I'm always seeking the best help and advice possible, and I'll continue to do that even when my career is over.
For either of you, do family or friends come and play a part in this, where they see the research that's going on and maybe kind of try to talk you out of retiring from football, or does that play a role or factor at all in?
Well, it's interesting because you can make a statement like, oh, I've experienced some memory loss, or I've had small things happen, and then when that becomes the headline, your family and friends get really nervous. When in your mind you're like, well, that wasn't a big deal. I think that happens to probably everybody, but because you're an NFL player and it becomes the headline, people get worried and concerned about it. So I think there's some of that certainly I think probably goes around, and for a guy like Joe who's had some concussions, I'm sure your family gets really worried about you when things like that happen, and not to speak on your behalf, but I think as the public becomes more aware of what football can do to some people's bodies and brains, there's more awareness and concern from family and friends. I think for a long time everybody knew how hard football was on your body, but they didn't realize how hard it was on your brain. And so now as that science is catching up on your brain, people are starting to be concerned about that too.
Hey, Joe, how does Greg Williams' scheme and philosophy and all that, how is that going to affect the secondary?
I think the thing that he really does, he doesn't mess with the secondary too much. The coverages are the coverages. He's more with the front seven, making sure that they're able to get to the quarterback. The thing I like about Coach is that he compares it to the D-line when they're going against one-on-one against the linemen. They're like, dude, the corners are out there playing one-on-one coverage. We ask them to win every time. If you can't beat your man on these one-on-one blocks, then why we keep screaming on them? So it's kind of just making sure everybody wins their one-on-ones. With the secondaries, they don't really do too much changing. It's more his schemes with the linebackers and front seven.
You guys have both been pretty well-known Cavs fans, especially you, Joe. Hayden, you grew up with Kyrie. What's your reaction to what were your feelings when you heard about his demand?
Man, it caught me off guard. It definitely caught me off guard. It's tough, At the end of the day, though, Kyrie is his own man. He's a professional. He's a superstar, and I don't really get into like the why everything's going on, but if he wants to go play for his own squad, I guess so. I just want, if we lose Kyrie, we need to be getting like 2 All-Stars back for him. But I hope the best happens for him. I hope that Cavs end up working things out. But it was definitely a little upsetting because Kyrie's my second favorite player in the league after Bron.